Hello, welcome to the channel, ladies and gentlemen. So today I wanted to discuss The Deep. I'm going to be going into his comic origin, the differences between his comic origin versus the show's origin, and how things have panned out in the comics versus the show. So if you don't want any spoilers, or potential spoilers, because of course we don't actually know what direction they're going to go in with the show yet, although you can see shades of it. Again, if you don't want any spoilers, click off the video. With that said, if you are new here and this is the type of content that you want, show me by hitting that like button. I am bringing some explained videos back to the channel, and if you do enjoy them, hitting that thumbs up really does help me know that you want to see more of them in future. So let's dive right in. Now, to get started on The Deep, let's talk about his comic origin, because it is different. It does differ slightly anyway. So the history of The Deep in the comic origin anyway is that he's quite literally just a well-known and long-time member of the Seven, and he's actually known in the public eye as King of the Seas. So The Deep is, again, differences to his show version anyway, is he's actually very, very mature. He's a very civilized member of the Seven, and again, similar-ish, well, it is very similar to the show's version. He also takes a lot of crap from all of the other characters, so disregard, contempt, racism, so on and so forth. And he also does actually find himself in some, strange circumstances here and there, and then, steals his metaphorical thunder as he's going around. He is essentially just a riff on Black Manta after all. Now, although he is one of the most mature members of the Seven, he is of course not all perfect, as most of the Seven members aren't. So he, along with A-Train and Jack from Jupiter, and of course Black Noir, which I did a video about last week, which I'll leave linked above, wanted to sexually assault Starlight. Also, of course, we know in The Boys that the superheroes, the Supes, are lab-grown, generally speaking, anyway, and he is the last remaining lab-grown original member of the Seven after the events in Washington, after he decided to not take part in Homelander's attempted coup d'etat against the US government. Now, obviously, he doesn't stay as a member of the Seven, and he becomes a member of a brand new team in The Boys. In issue number 72, he is part of a new team of superheroes that American Consolidated attempted to create, called the True, or just True. And Stillwell identifies him immediately as his new costume, which includes a large cone-shaped hood resembling a Klan, a KKK Klan hood. Still incorporates his helmet's porthole, so a pretty big giveaway. His powers are very reminiscent to what they have in the show: super strength, flight, and durability. Although, of course, in the show, he's not been seen to fly just yet. And again, in the show, we haven't actually seen any super strength or high durability. Although I guess the fact that he, was rammed into whilst he was on a whale could probably resemble some of that durability. Now, the show's version of Lord of the Seven Seas versus the comics King of the Seas, real name Kevin, does have some difference, and we actually know a little bit more about his origin in the show. Ever since he was 9 years old, The Deep had been hearing every aquatic animal speaking to him. Every aquarium, every beach, and every red lobster, he would hear voices crying out to him. And of course, naturally, he thought he was going insane. However, his mother had lied to him, calling him a gift, and he was just born that way, rather than we would know later on that he was part of a test subject. Now, one of the most notable differences between the TV version and the comic version is aesthetics. So the TV version, he's not African in terms of ethnicity, which he is in the comic at the very least anyway, or he's said to be. He also wears a large diving helmet in the comic, which I sort of alluded to when we discussed his costume, which he had in the True. Now, this large diving helmet he actually never takes off in the comic due to what he calls an ancient Atlantean curse. Now, again, one of the larger differences between the comic and the show, the comic version's more a riff on Black Manta, in terms of the fact that he is actually black in terms of ethnicity and the helmet, so on and so forth. It's very much a Black Manta vibe. The version from the show is much more a version of Aquaman than Black Manta, which you can tell just from looking at him, his appearance, the outfit, the sort of gold and yellow and greens. And in terms of just how he acts and things like that, I would say it's very much more a riff on Aquaman. And even going down to the things that he says about talking to fish and things like that, it does seem to take some of that sort of Aquaman vibe anyway. And that's the thing as well about the comic versus the show. So, of course, the comic is written by Garth Ennis along with Derek Robertson. And Garth Ennis has worked for Marvel, so naturally Garth Ennis would portray the Deep as a Black Manta style rip-off. It kind of makes sense that he would kind of have that. And it's nice that the show, I guess, took some of that, but obviously the Deep is much, much, much more an Aquaman rip-off because of what was coming up and prevalent during the time. Aquaman had, I think, been released for maybe a year and a half when The Boys was released, if I remember rightly. But even so, Aquaman was proved to be a somewhat popular DC movie, so it does make sense that they chose to take that. And it's nice that they took that anyway, at least from the comics, showing that, yeah, they're still sort of riffing on DC a little bit. But anyway, there's some of the direct comparisons. So there you go, there is the comic origin of the Deep versus the show version. Some differences there. Now, in terms of how they're going to progress and the slight spoilers there, I guess you could say. I mean, in the comic, we saw him join the True, a new superhero group. He's clearly being groomed as part of a Scientology riff in the Boys TV show. I'd imagine that's what they're going to be doing. Again, forming some new superhero team and going up against Homelander and things like that. Because, of course, that leader of the Church of the Collective wants him to rejoin the Seven, but I would imagine this would end up in failure and he would ultimately just create his own superhero team. But anyway, let me know your thoughts on all this down below in the comment section. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Thank you all so much for watching. But Mr. H, take care.